Get started. We'll get started. Our main topic today is going to be best software for your tablets and smartphones, and I'll be giving the presentation. My name is Tom Kreuzer. Before we get to the main topic, some club things that we'll cover first. Future meeting, the next MAC-SIG meeting is Friday, November 17th in the 201 auditorium. There also is a meeting today, but I assume since you're here, you're not over there. Then yeah, virtually hologram image here. Our general meeting, our next general meeting is Friday, November 10th. That'll be back here in the Baltic Room. And that'll be our annual holiday gift ideas. We'll have pizza lunch with pop. We do need help, though, with the pop and ice. The person who is normally doing that, our membership secretary, Paul, is gone. He won't be able to do it, so we're looking for somebody. If somebody could pick up the pop and the ice, the club will reimburse you for the cost there. And if you'd like to do that or can do that, see Stan Miller or myself. If we don't have anyone volunteer, we may just have tap water. We'll see. So it's to everyone's benefit to if we can find somebody that's willing to do that. Also, I mentioned here, I'll be giving that presentation. If you do have any things that you want to make sure get mentioned in the meeting, you can send me an email or talk to me, and I'll make sure and cover that topic next in November at our gift meeting. Officers, our president is Jim Holman. He's right there. Linda Brown is our vice president. I don't see Linda. Paul is our membership secretary. Mike Griffin, who leads the MAC-SIG and is our treasurer. Stan Miller is our secretary. He's in back there. Andrew Pertusi is our communication coordinator, and my name is Tom Kreuzer. I'm a director at large. Members old and new, normally you can pay your dues to Paul. Since Paul is not here, he's out of the country till December 13th, but you can either give it to myself or wait till Paul comes back. But if you're changing an email, you can send it to me or drop it off with me, and we'll make sure your email gets changed there. Suggestions for topics, you can email any ideas or talk to any of the board members. We're always looking for people to volunteer or present. If you've got a hobby at home or something that you do here at work, we're always looking for a presentation. Or if you'd just like to write a short article, we have our monthly eBytes newsletter. Can be a couple of sentences or can be multiple pages there, but we're looking for information. The website, as soon as this meeting's over, I'll publish the slides and the spreadsheet from this meeting. And if we record it, which we record most of them, or all that we can anyway, the past recordings are out there. We also have a deals section, and I mentioned our eBytes newsletter. So if you have anything that you want included in that, a question, tips or hints, favorite links for sale, send that to myself. Any club questions before we get to the main topic? Okay. There is a handout back in the back corner that has the list of apps out here, and so we'll talk a little bit about that. It's basically the format that I do it in is I create a spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet is sorted by category and then app, and we'll talk about the different headings first. The first column is the category, and I broke it up into, these are kind of general categories that you see out on the app sites for the various things. We go from cooking to weather. We have an app name and the app name, so if you're searching, whether it's out on iTunes or the Google Play Store, you can start with that name. A little caveat there is the names can vary a little bit from the iOS or the Apple iTunes store to the Android store. So frequently you'll see, let's say, something like All Recipes. Well, there may be 10 different apps that are close in spelling or have a slightly different variation there. So if you're looking for this particular one, you want to make sure you find the one that you're looking for and not pick up one of the others. So that's something to be aware of there. The third column is the cost. Most of these apps are free. Some of them do have a fee for both the installing it, or they may have a monthly fee for services that they're providing. The OS is whether it's available for the Apple, in which case it'll just say iOS. If it's just available for the Android, it'll say Android in there, and if it's available on both platforms, you'll see the word both there. And some of them that may be available on just one platform, by the time you try and download it, maybe they've migrated it over to the other platform. So frequently, if it's a successful app, you'll see it available on both platforms. And it usually doesn't take that long to convert or get a copy to work on the other's operating system. This is kind of a new column here, this key column, and this is where the recommendations came from. So if there's an A in that key column, that means that it was listed on PC Magazine's 100 Best Android Apps for 2017. If there's a B in there, that indicates that it was on PC Magazine's list for the 100 Best iPhone Apps. If there's a C in there, it was listed on Tom's Guide as one of the 20 Best iPad Apps. In Tom's Guide, it isn't. That's a different Tom. It's not me. There's a well-known Apple blogger that publishes a guide out there. If it's D, D is kind of new this year. I haven't used it before, but this is a new listing that'll show if it's in Google Play's top 50 Android apps. So there's a way when you're in Google Play, you can see what are the top downloaded apps, and I went through and took the top 50 there. T are the apps that I personally use myself. I have an iPad tablet, and I have an Android smartphone, and I have another Android tablet, so if I use an app on any of those platforms, I've listed it here. And then M is what has been recommended by you guys over the last year or 2 years. On the survey, we ask for feedback, and this is what you've responded back with some of your favorite apps, and the more unusual things. Certainly the more common ones are already going to be listed in the top 100 there. And then the column down here, this new column is if there's an X in there, that indicates that this app was not on our previous meeting. We had a meeting back in December 2016 where we talked about apps, and so that indicates that these are new apps. And if you look at the list, you'll notice that there are quite a few X's in here. I forgot the exact number, if it's something like 86 or something like that, but a surprising number of new apps that have shown up in the list since the last time there. Okay. Where can you download them, or how do you install? If you have one of these devices, chances are you've already downloaded quite a number of apps, so this shouldn't be anything new. But if you have an Apple device, you're installing from the iTunes store. That currently has 2.2 million apps out there. If you have an Android device, you're installing from the Google Play Store. That has 2.8 million. I mentioned this other, be very, 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 very careful if you are installing from anywhere else. Some vendors will send you an email saying click on this to install the app, or click on that to do a function to install. Do not install unless it comes from the Apple or the Android official site. The official sites go through and scan them for viruses and malware, and so you have a much better chance of not getting bad software on your machine. If you just click on a link, that link may have been a spam type of an email and just trying to get you to download and divulge information there. So don't download from anywhere else there. Here I'm showing what the Google Play Store looks like, and I usually when I'm installing for my phone or stuff like that, I'll usually use my desktop or a laptop computer and go out and search for it because I have a much bigger screen here. It's easier for me to navigate, and if I find something that I want, I can install it on this device with just one click. So you don't have to be on the device that you want to install it. You can be on your desktop or a laptop or any other device there and install from there also. And this is just an example of starting to type in the name and searching, and you're going to get a bunch of apps listed there. If you go in and look at the detail, some of the important things here mention here's the install. So you can install if you have multiple Android devices. It'll list all your devices and you can pick and choose which one to install it on. So that's kind of a nice feature there. Review and score. So this will give you the quick rundown of the number of stars out of 5 that it has and how many people have reviewed it. And so that's kind of a nice little feature. Then right below it you have, in some cases, a video down here. And the video is showing you how to use it or some of the features. And then some screen images and stuff like that that you can look through to see if it looks interesting or it truly is something that you want to install. If we scroll down in the Google Play, the next things that we see is, we see a description up here, but this is a little more detail on the reviews, showing you how many stars, showing who rated it 5 stars, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you have the reviews themselves. And the reviews, it's kind of unique in some cases where you can click on any of the reviews, and frequently if it's a negative review, let's say it's a 1 star, the developers or the team may have responded back to the user saying, well, did you try this, or if you do this you won't have this problem, or things like that. So it's kind of interesting if you are looking at an app to see whether you want it or do what you want it to do. And if we scroll down even further, this is one of the more important things that I always look at is the number of installs. So an app should have a large number of installs. In this case, this app has between 10 million and 50 million installs. And you don't want an app that has 1,000 installs or 100 installs. That just means that nobody's really using it. And why should you be the beta tester or have problems with a brand new app or an app that isn't out there? So I stay away from any app that, in most cases, any app that's less than 1 million or that, because if it's any kind of popularity, it's going to have a large install there. The only ones that might not have a large install is if it's a local store or something like that, and they have a smaller base of people. But any national chain or store or anything like that, you should be seeing millions of installs, not hundreds or thousands of installs. The other thing that I like is both iTunes and the Google Play will show you similar apps. So It'll also show you a number of other popular apps that are kind of in that same category there that have a lot of downloads. Okay, the format of this meeting, because it's a big long spreadsheet, you ask questions at any time, comment on things. We'll move quickly through some of these topics and hopefully get some feedback, and if people have additional apps, we can talk a little bit about that. We have a lot to cover. There's 381 apps on here. Now, the expectation is that you don't go and download all 381 onto your phone. Number one, you don't have enough space on there. So it truly is a case of when you have a particular desire to do something, hopefully you can look at this. You can say, oh, I'd like to try this one. Try one of them. If it doesn't do what you want, uninstall it and try another one. So, you know, it gives you something to look through instead of going out there and maybe blindly looking at the 2.8 million apps out there and trying to decide. So hopefully it's a good resource. I've used it over the years and given it to people when they ask questions and things like that. I mentioned here we won't get to everything, all the apps there. So let's take a look at the spreadsheet itself. So let me pull it up here. And also let's pull up Google Play. Oh, where am I here? Thought I had my... And I've opened Google Play over here because if we want to look at some detail or some things like that, we can pull up and get some more information there from it. But we'll start out at the top in the cooking and food category, and maybe we'll highlight a few of the new ones that have been suggested and that within the group. First one here is all recipes spinner, and this is a nice little app. I believe Linda Brown mentioned this. It will make your shopping list. So once you pick out a particular meal that you're interested in, you tell it the number of people and stuff like that, and it'll actually make you a shopping list of what ingredients you need and everything. So it's kind of a nice handy thing for that. Another one that Linda mentioned is seasonal food guide. So this is an app that you put in your location, and then it will tell you what produce is in season around you. You know, maybe you got green beans before, but are green beans still in season here? Or that it'll tell you which fruits and vegetables and that are in season around your area there. So kind of a simple type of a deal, but it can be handy there if you're interested in you know, what might be available at the grocery store when you go. Any other ones that people have in this food and cooking category that they use, or anyone want to mention anything? You don't have to be quiet. Yes?
I don't have any specific cooking app, but every time I have some stuff that I want to use up, I just type it in and up come a whole bunch of recipes that use that particular ingredient or multiple ingredients. You can put down X, Y, and Z, and then it'll come up a bunch of recipes. It's really
Yeah, there's some that you just tell it what you have, and it'll suggest certain things that you can make, and that's certainly that's handy there. And some of these others in here have to do with you know, local food deliveries or things like that, making reservations. But cooking, I guess the websites and cooking, I've used it for pulling up recipes. Go to Famous Dave's, and I like their beans. And you can find the Famous Dave's beans recipe, and it has sausage in it, bacon in it, and all kinds of things in there. But certainly that's one of the powers there of the internet and of these apps is access to practically everything there. Other comments, suggestions there? Okay. Let's next we'll talk about creativity. And creativity, a lot of the apps. Oh, yes. It'll be out on the website. And yeah, I should mention, so this spreadsheet will be out on the website along with a PDF. So if you want to print it, you can just use the PDF and print it. But the spreadsheet itself will be there. And the spreadsheet, I mentioned the column headings up here, so the cost, OS, key, and new, but you'll see there's some other columns out here. Well, this is, if you wanted to filter it and just see the ones that were listed by PC Magazine as the top 100, you can filter it and see that. So you can use the filters over here if you, or the ones that appeared in both the PC Magazine, Android and iOS top 100. You can filter it by whatever you want there, and see the ones or ones just recommended by our members. You can just get your list of ones recommended by the members. So that's what these additional columns are for here. They aren't printed on your handout because they're accumulated. This key is a combination of adding up all of these columns here. Okay. So creativity. A lot of them in the creativity side have to do with photos. So there's all kinds of different things that you can do there with changing your photos, enhancing them. Some of them are very specific. I think we had talked a little bit about like this one when I was talking about Google Photos. I was not aware of this Google Photo Scan. Google Photo Scan is a new app, and what that lets you do is, let's say there was, well, I don't have a picture on here, but let's say this was a picture up here. I can take the photo scan, and normally if you just take a picture of that picture, you get glare. So there's glare from a light, or there's something that's causing a reflection off the glass if there's glass in front, and you don't get as good a picture as you'd like. What Google Photo Scan does is Google Photo Scan says, you take this, and then you'll see the picture up there, and it'll have 4 additional spots, and you have to move your camera down, take another picture, move your camera up, take a picture, move it over, take a picture, move it over, take a picture. It then combines all 5 of those pictures to give you an image without a reflection in there and the best quality that it can give you. So it's really nice for taking pictures off the wall, or even if you're, have a photograph in a glass frame or anything, you can set it down on the floor and you can get a good picture or scan, if you want to call it a scan. That's why they call it a scan of that image there. And so it's kind of a handy little deal there. Let's see. Music. So there's music in here for some creating music. Yes.
One correction. Lumiere.
Yep.
That's both iOS and Android.
Okay. I'll update that. Let's see. And that's an example of, we mentioned that sometimes the names are a little bit different between the two, or the order. So this is my attempt to do a quick scan on both sites to see if something was available. So there's definitely, or can be, room for some error there. Okay, let's see. Prism, Procreate. Like S Photo Editor, let's take a look there, because I think. So if I wanted to see, and I'm not sure if I want the S Photo Editor. So as I start typing, it says, oh, do you want that? Yes, we'll search on that. You'll notice here in the Google Play Store, it's already telling me that this is a brand new app for 2017. So it let me know that this is new here. But let's go in and take a look here. So this lets you do some photo editing, collage maker, things like that. Well, you can change hair color, lips, eyes. You can beautify yourself. Let's say you don't have those six-pack abs. You can add the six-pack abs there on your selfie when you take it. So let's see what some of the other things here. So it's showing how it took changed the hair color. And so if you're doing anything with photography, and I think, Jim has mentioned, Jim Beardsley back there has mentioned in some of his presentations, like Lightroom and stuff like that. Those are great for editing. These are kind of additional packages that have a very narrow focus to do some enhancement, whether it's fixing the face, getting rid of blemishes real quickly, things like that. There's things that you can do. Add those muscles. Tattoos. That's what you can do if you've got kids. Take one of the kids and say, the kids just added tattoos. So you've got things. Add a hairstyle. You can add a fancy hairstyle there. Filters. Create collages. And then it has its own album. But so, and you can kind of look at the numbers again here. So this has been installed between 100 million and 500 million times. So this is a popular app. Let's go back here to our list. So that's how you can look up information, see whether you might be interested in it. But if you're doing, like I mentioned, anything with photography, there's, I don't know how many. I would guess probably maybe 200,000 apps out there that deal with photos. So there's something to do everything. If you wanted to remove the background, like the new iPhone will let you remove the background. Well, you've been able to remove the background for years with these apps. So, but that's not a new feature. It's just a new feature in that phone. But if you had the app, you could remove the background very easily, literally one click there. So there's stuff that'll do almost everything. I think Jim had mentioned, had you mentioned the Pro camera there, Jim? Yeah, and that if you're familiar with shooting film in a 35 millimeter camera and having control over the ISO settings and different settings and things like that, that's kind of, this gives you very fine control, and I think lets you shoot ranges and stuff like that.
It's also very good if you have one of these auxiliary lenses, macro or whatever. Some of the cameras, when you put the macro lens on, it switches the system. The Pro camera, at least on iOS, allows you to control it and make sure that you're getting the macro lens or the telephoto lens or the wide lens. Like on the new iPhones, they have two lenses. lets you make sure you're using the right lens.
So lots of control over the various things there. And like I say, there's all of these different apps that'll let you do that. Anybody else have anything in the creativity side that they want to mention or talk about there?
If you've got questions on the board, I've got access to a lot of them that I looked at.
Okay. Yeah, that's very nice of Jim there. So anyone with a question, that's Jim Beardsley, and you can either contact me and I'll forward on, or directly contact Jim there. And but a lot of these things too, because they're free or stuff like that, give them a try. You know, the worst you're out is the time that it took you to download. And I guess I'll mention one important thing too. When you're trying out these various apps and you download them, if you find that you don't use them, immediately uninstall it. Don't just leave it on your phone because some of the apps on your phone are running in the background or sending notifications or doing things. So if you aren't using it, by all means, get it off of your phone as fast as possible, because it's just going to slow down your phone, possibly take up memory and notifications and everything else that you really don't need. So as soon as you know that you don't need or that you don't find it useful, uninstall it and get it off of there. Okay, the next category here is education, and I think we just have a few new ones in here. American Sign Language. If you have kids in college, here's an app that lets you buy, sell, or rent textbooks for college. So textbooks can be very expensive. Here's an app that lets you, I believe the way the app works there is you scan the barcode. So you take a picture of the barcode for the book, and then it'll tell you if there's any available for rental or that you can buy and what the price is, or if you're looking to sell, how much they'll buy it back for. So nice little application, very simple, narrow usage. Once you buy your books for the year, again, this is probably one of those apps that once you buy it for the year, you could uninstall it because you don't need it on the phone until your next semester, your next class is there. Yeah, here's actually some classes that you can sign, or that it'll take you through. So if you're looking to improve your math skills, maybe you've got kids that are starting 5th grade and you don't know how to do some of the math that they're doing. A refresher or stuff like that can be nice to go through. Yes.
Has anyone ever used Babbel?
Babbel, has anyone used Babbel? I've heard of it. I haven't used it.
It's supposedly a language training app on the phone or tablet.
If I was going to mention, I do use Duolingo. I should have sent that to you.
I believe I have this. I don't have it in the education. Some of these, Duolingo is in the travel.
But
it's a translator. So
well, Duolingo is actually, it's more, learn a language. It's more about, so, and I would say you have to have had instruction. If you're trying to learn from scratch, it's not so good, but I'm using it to refresh my Spanish. You go through it and it gives you tutorials, and it's really mostly in a quiz format. Translate this, whatever, but it goes by topics.
Okay.
My wife's doing French, I'm doing Spanish. So it helps you.
Yeah, and I guess so that points out one of the difficulties with the categories is some of these apps may fit into, let's say, the travel or the education or creativity. They can certainly cross boundaries. So if you don't see something in one area, certainly do a search or that. And if you don't know how to do a search in Excel or that, what you do is you can do a Control F, and then that'll bring up the find, and what is it?
DUOLINGO.
Yeah, so here's Duolingo, learn a language. So there's a few things in here, and then we'll get to the travel here. So, but the search when you have the spreadsheet is handy. The Control F that I just did, if you're not familiar, Control F is kind of the universal find. So almost on any application that you have on your PC or that, you can do a Control F. Whether you're in a browser, you can do a search. Whether you're in a PDF, you can do a search. So you can search for things within the entire document just doing a Control F and searching. What's that?
Except in Outlook, it's forward.
Oh, yeah.
I open that forward box all the time.
Yes, I don't use it. Yeah. There are some packages that use it for other purposes, but for the most part, most of the packages will conform to some of the standards there, like the copy and the paste and things like that. Find is one of those things that is somewhat universal. Okay. Any others in the education that anyone wants to mention? Okay. Entertainment, lots of different things there. There's a few new entries, mainly from me, for streaming. I think I had mentioned before that I had gotten rid of Comcast, and now I am streaming, and I have DirecTV Now. But because I have DirecTV Now, I can also use some of these other apps like Discovery Go and History, and I also have HBO and that, so I can stream past shows and current shows and that on my different devices there. So streaming apps are certainly becoming very popular. If you're not familiar with some of the streaming that's taking place, you'll notice like on TV ads for AT&T. AT&T is actually owns DirecTV and DirecTV Now, so they own that. They also own the HBO, and so that's why they have some of this stuff under there. Whereas you take, I think it's Verizon owns Netflix, or which one owns Netflix? Verizon or T-Mobile or one of those owns a large stake in Netflix there, and so that's why they give it free on their phone or a reduced rate. And so you have streaming capability. What I'm getting at is there's lots of streaming capability out there for watching shows and doing stuff. The thing that's not out there, if you are interested in cutting the cable, is some of the DVR functionality is a little limited. What they want to do is they want the ability for you to DVR or have that available up on the cloud. And right now, it's a little sketchy, either not available for most of the services, or they don't let you skip ahead for commercials or things like that. So it's getting there, and it gets better every month there. But there are a lot of streaming, individual streaming ones, and if you want to watch the most current show, let's say the night after it appeared, you usually have to go out to their individual app and watch it there. Let's see, what are some of the others here? Yeah, this is a new one that I started using, Motorola FM radio. So if you have a Motorola device, they all have a built-in FM radio, and this is just an app that lets you listen to the FM radio. It doesn't use any of your data, and the only thing that I'm struggling with there is the antenna is assumed to be your earphone. Well, if you're using Bluetooth, you don't have it. You don't have an antenna, which means that it doesn't get as many stations as when you do have a wired earphone there. So something there. Let's see. On now, so there's some other ones out here. TV Guide, I think I use the TV Guide where you can see what's on TV, and you can put in your favorites, so it'll tell you when a new episode is coming on, or recap there. So those can be handy the more channels you have, or you're trying to keep up with everything that's going on there. Let's see. So anyone else have anything in the entertainment category, an app they use, or a comment there? Okay, let's move on to the finance. Finance, there's a few new ones in here. Google Wallet for sending and receiving money. And that's kind of an area that was supposed to take off, but really hasn't. And this gets back to the payment. You have Apple Pay, you have, what was the Android one? Android Pay. And I used Android Pay until I got my new phone, and it didn't have the capability on it. So it's a case of, because it isn't very popular here in the United States, they don't put it on a lot of the phones. If you're not familiar with the way those two work, is they work with kind of a radio frequency special connection. It's not a standard Bluetooth connection or any type of standard there. It's a special connection between the device and your phone. And people in the United States have been reluctant to trust the service, so a lot of the phone makers aren't putting it on. Well, if the phone makers don't put it on, then a lot of the vendors out there don't have the capability in their readers, and so it isn't taking off. So this is another option. Google Wallet is an option for sending and receiving money to both stores and to individuals. So I could make a payment, let's say to Jim, if I owed him $20, he borrowed me $20, I could shoot him $20 there. Yeah, and there's certainly lots of other options for setting up. Some of it's just a case of how easy is it to use. Some of them will, once you turn on the service, it'll identify people around you that also have the service. So I don't have to select anyone or put anything. It's a case of it's going to tell me who's around me. So if I'm with my friends, I can literally in one click, I can send them money, as opposed to some of these others. You can identify the person, but then you have to identify their account, and you have to do that. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, I could, if you and I are connected there, and I want to give you $20. I just push the $20 button, and you've got $20 in your Google Wallet. And if I want to use that $20 to go out to Amazon, yeah.
We can friend with everyone.
Yeah. But the other services, that you're kind of talking about is you can write checks, and you can have those checks sent and things like that for bill pay. But that's different than some of these services here.
PayPal is another one that people do use, and Venmo.
Right.
Venmo seems to be among the millennials.
Yeah, and if you use services like Uber and stuff like that, well, then you want to have one of these services. You don't want to tie it directly to your bank, or I don't like to do that anyway. I prefer to go through one of these services, because then when I'm paying for stuff, they don't have direct access to my credit card number or my bank account or any of that stuff. The only person or service that has access to that is the Google Wallet and the Vino. It's those services that have it. These other vendors do not see it and will never see it there. Okay. And then there's ones for managing your money, the things like Mint, and if you've got a budget and are doing things, certainly that's a nice way to keep track there. Any other things that people use in the finance area or want to mention? Okay. Games, there's a few games mentioned here. I'm not a real game player, so I don't end up doing too much, but certainly these are the ones that showed up in the various lists there. And a number of Mahjong, Magic Tiles, crossword puzzles, and these kind of vary from year to year which one's the most popular there. Any other games that people enjoy playing or doing?
Pokemon sitting in the game section?
No, it's not. I think if you looked at Pokemon installs, it was kind of like, okay, we go for a few months and then. There's still people that are doing Pokemon, but right. And I mean that if you aren't familiar with it, it's worth taking a look at. The way it did get some of the people or kids and people out of the house and out looking for these various sites and things like that around. So it was interesting, and the concept of using kind of reality with these creatures around there that you'd get your points. Health and fitness. So there's quite a bit of calorie counters to help you do your fitness, encourage you to do stuff. Calorie counters and calorie counters kind of boil down to how easy is it for you to find your food that you have and identify the portion size and then keep track of it. So if you are doing that, there's some out here that you can try there. And then there's various ones for coaches, or if you're looking to run training programs where you both keep track of what you should be doing, and then it tells you whether you should be doing more sprints or cross training or what else you should be doing to keep yourself in shape or to prepare, let's say, for a 10K or a half marathon or a marathon there. And then if you do use it, some of them I use like Map My Run for walking, and it works for walking, biking, stuff like that. It'll use your GPS and it'll track your course, give you splits, all kinds of stuff there for what you've got. So it's kind of neat to do that. And I think what was it, the Milwaukee Marathon? Somebody should have used Map My Run. The Milwaukee Marathon, if you didn't hear, I think they ran it last couple of weeks ago. They found out that the course was short. And this is the second year in a row that the course has not been full marathon length, which doesn't sound too bad until some of the people are trying to qualify for things like Boston Marathon. You have to qualify at a certain time for your age group. They won't take the times from Milwaukee and some of the others because it's not an official run because it didn't go the official distance. But these are kind of nice. The different ones will keep track of your what you walk, bike, and it's just one app that'll do all of those and give you your splits and tell you, estimate the number of calories burned, that kind of thing. Any others that people have in the fitness, health and fitness, that they want to mention? Okay. News. I think we covered quite a few of these before. You have local news stations, you have local papers, you have things like Google News for national. So if you're not reading news or getting news, there's certainly a large number of these. These are much more reliable than Facebook. People that are getting their news off of Facebook, Facebook is trying to clamp down on the fake news, but there's too much misinformation on some of the sites like Facebook. You're better off getting your news from a more reliable source than trusting some of these sources which have no filter at all, and you get all kinds of crazy things. Any other news or apps that people use or find interesting? Well, none of these showed up in the top 100 or mentioned by members there. So according to the filters that I've got in here, this is what's showing up here. And certainly there's thousands of other apps that people use. Okay. Productivity. A lot of the apps in this category are the things that are going to make you more productive. It could be things like the Microsoft Word or Google Sheets or Google Docs. If you have a Google Drive, certainly I'd highly recommend you use the Google Docs and Sheets and Slides, and you can have access to everything there right on your phone and update and change things. So the days of having something back on your desktop, it's usually much more friendly to store that stuff up on the cloud and then use apps like this so that you can access it from anywhere at any time. And so I have things, I have like dimensions of my rooms in my house on here. So if I'm at Menards and I want to know what the dimensions of this bedroom is, I can pull it up on my phone and I can get the dimensions of the bedroom from a spreadsheet that I have right there. So instead of having that stuff buried away at home or somewhere else, I have access to it. Also, I use things like OneNote. OneNote lets you create shopping lists and share shopping lists and things like that. So there's a ton of different things there that'll save you time and energy there. And there's calendars. They mentioned some of the calendars. However, I basically get by with Google Calendars, and Google Calendars, you can share calendars with other people and things like that. So within our family, we have one that has all the birthdays on, and we share that so that individually people don't have to enter in all the birthdays and anniversaries and things like that and try and keep it up to date. Any others that people want to mention in the productivity?
I use Evernote.
Evernote?
I don't know why. OneNote at work and Evernote.
Yeah, those are the two most popular general note takers there, and both the packages let you scan in stuff. So if somebody writes you a note or something like that, you just go into your OneNote or Evernote, take a picture of it, put it in there, and then you can collect things together. When I do presentations for the club like this, I usually collect information over a number of months, or I see something that looks interesting. well, I can just take a picture, I can put a URL link, I can put a little comment, I can do all this, and I can organize it within there. I create a folder, put this stuff in here, and at some point I'll go back there when I'm ready to start actually doing the presentation, bring up the stuff and start doing it there. But the packages, excellent for use like that. Evernotes and the OneNote there are, and both of them are free there. Evernote, I don't know. Do you know the pricing there, Jim, or how that works?
Well, they do have some. I don't pay for them, so I don't know for sure. But I think it has more to do when you're doing more collaborative type work and that kind of thing. We still share notes, my wife and I, but maybe there's. So I'm not exactly sure, but I've seen the ads.
Yeah, Jim may. Do you have an idea, Jim?
They used to be free on all the number of devices. It's now, I think, 3 devices. 2 or 3 devices, and then after that it's $29.99, I think, a year. If you want to go to more than 2 devices.
Yeah, so I think it just depends on how you use it and the number of devices there that it has in there. And some of them do get into more collaboration. So if you were looking to hold have 5 people editing the same thing at the same time, kind of a deal. But the simplest form is, gee, you've got a document or you've got a folder out there and you start putting stuff in there. And as long as you set security, then somebody else can see it, edit it, and you can be working that way. And that usually works for personal use. It's just maybe the more sophisticated business use that you might run into it. Okay. Search is the next category, and basically you have your standard searches in there. The only new one I added in this year is Amazon Alexa. So if you have an Alexa device, you can put that out here, and then you can improve Alexa there with how it responds to your questions and things like that by going in and training it. So this is an app that lets you enhance your Alexa device out there. Any other that people want to mention or have seen or heard there? Okay, the next category, security. There's a couple of new ones that have come in here for keeping data. So you can have a dual vault, dual authentication, protect things that way. So that's one of the a new one in there. In general, antivirus and stuff like that isn't needed as much on the phones as it is on the desktops and the laptops. Because if you are downloading from sites like Google Play and from iTunes, they're already doing scanning, so you shouldn't be getting any infected type from there. The popular packages, though, would be like the password managers, LastPass. I think Jim talked about that earlier this year. So password keepers and things like that are important to have on your phone. But having an antivirus or that, I believe I tried one shortly with my first phone, and what I didn't like about it was the extra overhead and battery usage that it was using. So I took it off. And so you have to weigh your risks against the overhead that it does cause that you're putting it on there for. Anything else in the security? Shopping, lots of different shopping apps. A lot of local stores will have their own, so to do things, it can be handy. This is one I just started using. The State Farm has a discount you have State Farm insurance, it's called Drive and Safe. You put a device in your car, connect it with your phone by Bluetooth. It keeps track of your driving. So it'll grade you on how well you do on left-hand turns and right-hand turns and braking and accelerating. And I don't do well on left-hand turns. I'm a C minus. I take them too fast, it says. But anyway, if you put this in there, it keeps track of all this stuff, and then it'll give you a discount. Like I think my latest discount was close to $70. So they'll pay you for having the device in your car there. It is a bit intrusive, so you do have to have your phone with you, and if you have husband and wife, both of you have to sync your phones and Bluetooth and stuff like that, so that it registers the stuff as you're driving there. But it is kind of interesting concept there, and it doesn't rely on any capabilities of the vehicle itself. It's just this little deal that you put in your car and then your phone, and that's the way that it works. Okay, so that's it. Social, there's, again, a few new ones in there. If you're doing texting, you can text, you can do video calls, more sophisticated.
I'd like to jump back a little bit on shopping. Does anyone use Gas Buddy? I use Gas Buddy, but I hate the mobile version.
I tried Gas Buddy. I won't use it because I found it useless. The prices were old in it.
When I use it online, it's convenient and you can see it. I like it. I don't like the mobile interface.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some out there. If I'm on the road, Woz is a good one. Waze, and because that'll tell you what's around there, and you constantly got the updates from people around you there. No? Social, travel, we're at the end of our time, so I'll just kind of gloss over some of these others in here. Take a look, download them, try them. There's 381. If you ever have a problem, go out and you should be able to find an app that does what you want there. Let me get back. Let's go back here. So if you do have any other apps that you do use or want to recommend, just send me an email and with a sentence or two, and I'll include it in the next eBites. Or if you send it immediately, I'll update the list before I publish it out on the website. Any questions? Otherwise, we'll kind of conclude. But yeah, use this as your Bible. Look back through there, and I think you'll find a lot of interesting things in there. Yes. I didn't talk about VPN here. There are some apps, one or two listed in the security. VPN, if you're not familiar, is a way to do secure communications. So if you're on your phone and you want to make sure that somebody isn't eavesdropping or getting your transmissions, VPN can do some of that. Now, VPN doesn't necessarily work for everything, and for
the reason I ask is that there's been several news reports about the hole in Wi-Fi. The news went crazy one night saying everybody should download a VPN and install it. That's telling people, you know, the sky's falling, go buy an umbrella.
Right, and the bottom line on a lot of it is, like with the Wi-Fi, it's a case of the device isn't patched, So that could be a router, it could be your phone, it could be that, but eventually the phones and Windows is already patched, iOS 10 is already patched, and so you have these various patches that'll fix that vulnerability. But the encryption part of it and what's vulnerable for secure HTTPS sites, that's usually enough security to stop most people except the most extreme hackers there. Okay. Okay, anything else? Otherwise, thanks for coming.
Next to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why you